Hey everyone, welcome back to Heartbeats and Footprints. Today's guest is someone that I genuinely admire. Bracha Gewirtz is a young woman who has so much poise, charisma, and confidence. She took her passion for fashion and turned it into an Instagram page called Fashionably Frum. On today's episode, Bracha shares with us what it's like being a plus size model, why she started this Instagram page, and navigating the shidduch system when you're not fitting into other people's neat little boxes. She also shares with us so many great fashion tips. This was a conversation that was candid, real, and raw. You don't want to miss it, so stick around till the end. Here is my conversation with Bracha. Hi, Bracha. Welcome to Heartbeats and Footprints. I'm so excited to have you join us and to have this conversation with you today.
Thank you so much for inviting me. This is incredible. I'm really looking forward.
Yes, so there's so much that we can talk about you, but you have an Instagram page called Fashionably Frum, which I absolutely love. Tell us a little bit about that page and what inspired you to start it.
Sure. Growing up, I always loved clothing. I was always very creative. I actually grew up not dressing so modestly, wearing shorter skirts, wearing shorter sleeves. And around 12, 13 years old, I really, there was no, catalyst, but I was like, oh my gosh, okay, I'm going to start keeping sneakers now. And ever since then, I kind of leaned into this love for clothing and style and colors. And the Instagram part came a little bit later. I used to do hair professionally and I had an Instagram page for that. And over time, I would begin posting my outfits and things just went from there until it was a full blown, clothing account. And then when I was in seminary, I remember this so clearly. We had a yomiyon, like a day of programming all about sneas. And usually I didn't really pay so much attention to it was like 8 hours of programming and a lot of times it was about things that I had heard a million times. But for some reason, I was sitting there in that programming and I was thinking, I'm like, I love what I do. I love posting all of my clothing and my outfits and talking to people. But I don't know, I'm just realizing now I have no idea who's seeing this. And I have no idea who's taking the pic, who's, seeing the pictures, if they're saving them. And all of a sudden, I felt very exposed and sat down with one of my mentors, Robertson Dina Schoonmaker. She really gets all the credit.
She's phenomenal.
She is out of this world. And I sat down with her and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to delete my Instagram. This is horrible. I can't have it. Who knows who's seeing my pictures? Oh my gosh. And men could see it. And I was getting so stressed out. And she stopped me and she said, take a deep breath. She said, why can't we find a way for you to continue posting your outfits and having this outlet in a creative way where you feel comfortable on a sneeze level, on a modesty level? And I said, well, what do you mean? And she said, is there a way that you can control who sees what you're posting and you can control where it's going? And we actually created this account together. And that day I ended up deleting my old Instagram account because I didn't need it for hair anyways. And we started Fashionably Frum, which was for women only. It was a private account, so people have to request to follow. And automatically, that feeling of being exposed went away, if that makes sense. And
Because
then
now
from
it's
there,
only for women.
now it was only for women, and it was also, I controlled who was seeing it. I felt, I didn't know when it was on my first Instagram, I didn't know who was seeing the pictures. Were people saving it? Were people sending it around? I had no idea. And, how many, like spam accounts and fake accounts could see it. So I felt that starting a new Instagram where I could create a space that was A, only women, and B, catered mostly to religious women was a much more comfortable experience. And so that was how Fashionably From started.
I love it. So I'm such a big fan of your page for a few reasons. First of all, because you do model sneistic fashion, but you have such a good fashion sense. Your colors, your just everything about it is so spot on. The way you accessorize. Where did you get to going from being somebody who's a little bit interested in fashion to somebody who really knows her stuff in it?
So it wasn't always like that, but I always say I grew up from the time I was 5 years old. I was holding a paintbrush, I was drawing, I was painting. So I was given from Hashem this talent of understanding colors and the way that things work together. I've always had a very good eye. That was something one of my co-hosts that Hashem gave me. As I was starting to dress more tsanua, for a while, it was really, really difficult until I started paying more attention and saying, what is the rest of the world wearing, right? What are we seeing in stores and how can I apply that to myself? I can't necessarily walk into any store and pick something off the rack, but I can walk into a Frum store and play around with it until I get the same kinds of style. So, in order to keep dressing Sanua and feel good about it, I kind of had to do almost like a study of sorts on what trends were going on and how to put an outfit together because that made it so much easier to dress modestly and to keep that up.
Yeah. I know you mentioned before that you didn't really have a catalyst to becoming more tsanua. Where do you think it came from? Like, just like from one day to the next, you said, I'm done with like wearing short sleeves, short skirts.
So the way that I grew up, I'm very fortunate. I have a very small family. I have one sister, and we both used to live at home. My sister has since made Aliyah, and she's doing amazing things, Baruch Hashem. But we grew up in a home that was very much you do what you want to in your avodas Hashem. My father is a rabbi; he has smicha from Tel Yeshiva, and my mother also. She grew up in a very frum environment, and she felt like she's not going to push us to be one way. My mother grew up in a certain environment, which, some people would say, let's say she grew up much more yeshivish. And she said, no, I'm going to be the way I am. She goes, we have certain values in our house, but the way that you and your sister want to live your lives, as long as you're making an educated decision and you've learned the halachos and you've discussed it with a rav or with my father, they were always very accepting. And so at first, we always had this growing up where God wasn't some mythical, cloud floating around. Like we grew up and we would say since we were little kids, Hashem, I really don't want to walk to the grocery store. Could you get a spot right in front? Like we grew up with God and religion as a tangible feeling. So I think it was easy for me to understand, okay, this was what my next steps have to be because I had that tangible relationship.
Interesting. Your parents sound incredible, by the way, to let you choose. That's amazing.
They happen to be incredible. I mean, they have one daughter who's living in America and in social work school and doing all this on Instagram, and then they have another daughter who's living a totally separate life in Eretz Israel, and they just they set the stage for us to be able to do whatever we wanted. But I think that when it comes to what helped me start dressing sanua, it was just that we were always from, and this was an area where I was very obviously lacking and some of the kids in my neighborhood were dressing much more newer than me, and I knew that it was a concept. I knew it was something to strive towards. So because I had that support from my parents, it was very easy.
Yeah. Is that something you still struggle with, by the way, to dress anua?
So I would say 99% of the time, no. Baruch Hashem, that's not my struggle anymore. Everyone has their moments, I feel like. Even those of us who have been doing it for, most of our lives, there's always going to be moments where, oh, this would be so much cuter if it wasn't lined, or it would be so much more stylish if it could be more fitted. So there's always definitely those moments, but I find that to remind myself of why I'm dressing Sando in the first place is okay, I'm doing it for myself, because of who I am and what I value. So today it's going to be really cute if I wear it without a slip, but tomorrow I'm not going to be proud of how I portrayed myself.
I love that you said that. So it's really a conscious decision that you're making and about how you're going to feel. Like, yes, I may feel a little bit prettier, or in general, it's not something that I'll feel good about.
Exactly. And it's a constant avoda because every day you get dressed and every day you have to make that decision. But I always think about it. It's so interesting. I heard this from Rebbitzin Rina Tarshish in the same day of programming that led me to start Fashionably Frum. And it's I think one of the only things I remember word for word from seminary. And I think about this every day is that the Hebrew word for clothing is beged, beis gimel dalid, and the Hebrew word for traitor, or for someone who betrays, is bagad, beis gimel
Oh,
dalid.
wow.
And she explained to us that the way you dress can either show who you really are. But by dressing a certain way, you can betray who you really are. And I think about that every single morning when I get dressed. It's a very conscious decision, but I think about, do I want to betray my real values for the sake of fashion that will be out in 3 months? Or do I want to support my values and who I am because that's forever?
That's such a great concept, by the way. I love that. Thank you for sharing that with us.
It's one of my favorite concepts. I feel like when we learn about tznius and modesty, there's so many things that say you can't do this and you can't do that and you have to do it this way and that's bad. But we don't really get, a lot of times when we're learning about it, we don't get that explanation of, no, you're doing it for yourself. You're doing it because of who you are and what you hold dear. So that has always been one of my favorite explanations for the, why we dress. And I think that it helps with a constant avoda every day to have something that, you know, tangible in your mind of, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah, yeah, it really is a good one. So your page, and I know that you're considered by some, and I hate this word, but you're considered by some as a plus size model. So to me, who decided plus size? Everybody's a size, but that's not for right now, a discussion. But where did you get your confidence from? Because people from all sizes, they're not necessarily confident enough to model, especially on Instagram and stuff. So where do you get your strength and your confidence to do that?
So that's something that's really only come in the last, I'd say, 5, 6 years. Growing up, I was one of the least confident people I knew, and especially growing up, I was always on the heavier side as a kid. So growing up, I had a lot of really unflattering nicknames from people in school. And it was really very hard to learn how to accept myself. But the thing that really helped me, I think, when it came to confidence was not the concept of body positivity, because I actually don't love that concept, but the concept of body neutrality. And when I took the almost the, in Yiddishkeit, we believe that we are not the guf, we are the neshama. The guf is here so that my neshama can do what it has to do. That's why I have a body. And when I internalized that, I was able to say, look, I might not love my body today. I might have loved it yesterday, but that part doesn't really matter how I feel about it, as long as I can objectively say that it's healthy, I'm keeping it healthy, and it's doing what it has to do to help me fulfill what I need to do in this world. Once I internalized that message, there was like no pressure to be confident anymore. I think when people talk about body positivity, you have to love your body, you have to love how you look. People of, you could be a size 0, you could be a size 20. Body positivity still can be a lot of pressure. Not everyone loves their body. So
That's a
being
good
able
point.
to say, be neutral about it and just say, okay, I don't have to love it, I don't have to hate it, I have to keep it healthy to do what it has to do. That was the first step in being able to accept my body for what it was and start to become more confident.
Yeah, yeah. I really like that you said that it's you don't have to love or hate your body, it just is. This is our body, right? How would you recommend people who struggle with this idea or this concept, how can they get to a place of body neutrality? And I love that you said that, not body positivity. How can somebody
Right.
get there?
So honestly, it's another thing that you have to work on every day. But I always say one of the biggest things when I talk to girls about, or my friends, my coworkers about this, is in order to start accepting your body as it is, you have to allow it to function the way that it needs to. So you have to, think that you have to have enough, I guess, self-worth is the word, to make sure that you're feeding it properly, you're giving it the right nutrients, you're hydrating it. And it also, goes into clothing. I speak to so many women who tell me, "Oh, I want to buy this dress for my son's bar mitzvah in 6 months. Let me buy it a size down." But then what happens when you get to the bar
Yeah.
mitzvah and the dress doesn't fit? So no, in order to allow your body to do what it has to do, you have to have clothing that's comfortable, that you can feel good in. And for some that means wearing a hot pink jumpsuit, and for some that means wearing all black. But doing these like physical basic things to help you feel more physically comfortable in your body often will help us become more mentally comfortable, and reminding ourselves, that just because I feel like I look a certain way today, well, if I'm talking to myself and I'm saying, "Where I really don't like how this skirt makes me look. It makes me look so heavy, or it makes me look so wide." I always stop and I say, "Would you say that to your younger sister? Would you say that to your best friend? So then why would you say it to yourself?" Right? If that's not something that you would focus on when it comes to someone that you love and respect, then by training your brain to have the same compassion for yourself, ultimately it helps you get to a place of acceptance and you can get to this, place of body neutrality where you love your body for what it does, not necessarily love or hate how it looks.
That's actually a very, very good point. What happens if I'm just going, off of what you just said, if a person doesn't dress for their body type, like they're trying to wear clothing that maybe is trendy or fashionable in the moment, but it really doesn't look good on them. So, what advice would you give a person like that?
So I always say, and this might not be what people would expect from someone who's into fashion, I also do a little bit of personal shopping on the side. And when I'm shopping for people, I will never let them buy something if they don't love it. I don't care if it's the most stunning thing you've ever seen, but if you don't love it, and I actually grew up with this from my grandmother who used to do all my shopping with me and my mother, she'd say, if you don't love it, you don't buy it.
I like that.
Because you don't love it, it could be trendy, it could be gorgeous, you're not going to feel good in it. And that's the main point. So, even though, yes, I am a big believer in learning to dress for your body shape and your body type, right? Not necessarily your body size. I'm a big believer in that. But I think that the first step in figuring out how to dress for your body is wearing what you're comfortable in and what you objectively love,
Y-
even if it's not the most trendy.
You're actually very good at accessorizing. I love following your page, by the way, and I always look at the accessories. You always like wear belts and little purses, and your shoes match and everything. So, do you have any tips to help people? How can they accessorize? Because not everybody's good at this.
So I say first and foremost, if you want to learn to accessorize, so knowing your body shape is very important. Rifki from Impact Fashion actually has an amazing resource for this. So for me, I'm a perfect hourglass figure. That means that my shoulders and my hips are proportional and my waist is my narrowest spot. So for me, belts are my best friend because they accentuate that shape.
Right.
I'll always love wearing a big sleeve because it balances out my shape. I think that's the first step. But also, what I tell people is if you're looking to start accessorizing more, start with the basics. Buy one good gold pair of earrings, one good silver pair of earrings. Find a heel that's a little bit exciting that you usually wouldn't wear but you love. But when you're doing it, make sure that as you're buying, see, oh, can I think of four different outfits that I'll wear this with? And it sounds very funny, but like at first you have to force yourself. One of my favorite things is, I don't know if you could tell, I love headbands. Headbands are some of my favorite accessories. I did not start wearing them until I went to seminary. And I thought that they were cute. I had no idea how to style them. I look back now at some of the pictures and I laugh. But over time, when you have pieces that you love and stick to colors that you're comfortable with, if you work on that and you have those pieces that you love, ultimately you could teach yourself. I always say that people should use like Pinterest as their inspiration, or go on Instagram, see someone that you think, I love how she styled that dress with that purse, and think about, well, what do I like about it? Do I like the colors? Do I like how it might be a different texture? These things, it sounds so funny because you're studying basically, but if you use a studying method, you'll get great results.
Yeah, that's actually such great advice. So, I'm going to do that by following you.
Amazing.
Yeah. So I want to change direction a little bit right now because you're single. You're in the shidduch dating world. So how has being a quote unquote, and I say quote unquote because again, like I said before, I really hate this term, a plus size model. How has that affected your shidduch journey?
So I think it's been interesting because I do see a difference in, the resumes that I get versus the resumes that some of my skinny friends get. And one of the things that I always see and I always say is that some shadchanim, they like to match based on size instead of anything else. So that I get a lot. And, I actually had a shadchan say to me once, she said, look, so you're starting to date. So this might be time for you to go get, a surgery or do a treatment to lose
Oh
weight.
wow.
Otherwise, I can only set you up with heavy guys. And she said that to me. So I said to her, I said, look, I said, heavy guys deserve to get married too, first of all. But, to me, that was such a crazy way of setting people up, and unfortunately, I definitely have seen that in the dating process that guys also get set up with someone just because they're heavy and they're heavy, or they see someone who, you know, I've gotten, not for myself personally, but some of my friends who are also plus size, well, they've only get read to people, let's say, who have a disability or some sort of, people who have any sort of physical, difference, because they say physical difference, physical difference. And sometimes they end up being great matches because ultimately Hashem is guiding the matches. It's not always us. But sometimes you have to sit and wonder, are we looking at the person or are we looking at the picture?
Right. Right. So it makes me sad, by the way. I'm in a shatrin, and I'm trying to think if I'm guilty of that also, and it could be I am, and it makes me very sad. It really, really does. So, what would you wish that can be changed about the shidduch process?
I think that shadchanim are under a lot of pressure, and I always say it. We actually talk about this on my page a lot. People say, "Oh, well, you're 23 and single, and you don't get so many engaged. Like, how do you feel about the shidduch system?" I am actually one of the biggest proponents for the shidduch system. I think it is the best system that we have. I do think that shadchanim are under a lot of pressure. They get. I'm sure you have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of resumes coming in every day. Everyone wants to get set up all the time. I understand so clearly how easy it is for shadchanim to just say picture, picture, right? The same way that people might look and say schools and schools, they're a match, so why not? But I wish it was almost like, you know, where you could focus in on one or two or three or five singles, let's say, at a time, because I cannot imagine how overwhelming it is to have to think of everyone all at once. But I've seen that, and here in Muncie, we have a group called Muncie Shidduch Initiative, and every week they have a focus meeting. So I know when I've been the focus meeting because I'll get resumes that week. And
Oh, that's interesting.
those weeks when I was part of the focus meeting, I actually find that the matches, even though they don't work out, or maybe I don't go out with them, but they're so much more on target. Because I think sometimes, not only in shidduchim, but in so many things in this world, we're so busy and we're so hectic, we forget to look at the person themselves.
Right.
And that's what I told that shadchan, that heavy guys deserve to get married too, and they also deserve to be loved because they could also be amazing people. You know, it's
Right.
so much more than skin deep, and I think it goes back to this concept of understanding what's for the physical world and what's spiritual, what's about the neshama. Like why are we focusing sometimes on the schools people went to? I know shadchanim who worked based off of financial brackets. How does that, but if you're looking at the person, you're understanding that Hashem is guiding the process, right? I think it's easier to put that focus onto the person inside the resume. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what do you think people should focus on besides for looks? What's important really, in a shidduch?
I always say that the number one thing is you have to have two parties who have midos that are both growing people and both actively want to make someone else a big part of their life. You want someone who's ready to get out of the selfish stage, because I say it as someone who is currently in this stage. It's very different than what my married friends are living with, where they're the primary caretaker of someone else and their spouse is taking care of them, as opposed to living at home with your parents. So that readiness to grow and to work hard and to make someone else your focus, I think, is number one. And I always say, like, you want someone who's going to want to take care of you and you're going to want to take care of them. And obviously,
Right.
personality, all that goes into that. But if the basis is someone who's a giver and you're ready to be giving to someone else, I think that makes a great match.
Yeah, yeah,
You're the shadchan, you know this more than I do. But these are always the things, like when I'm researching someone or someone's researching me, these are always the things that I want to look out for. Because I think without that, you can't have a stable, steady, strong relationship.
yeah, you're 1000% right. So, you seem so down to earth and so grounded. Yeah, what? else would you like people to know about you? Or what do you wish people would know about you?
I think that when you tell people I have an Instagram page, I have a blog, I think people have an automatic preconceived notion that you're going to be very high maintenance. You're going to be very, obsessed with the physicalities. You're going to be someone who's, very shallow. And I always say that that's not, the kind of page that I want to be. There are pages that I follow and I love that are purely for the clothing. And I love it because I can get ideas and I see beautiful things that I want to buy and things how I want to wear. And I love it. But I wish that people knew there's so much more than just that. And especially like when I model and people will see my picture on various stores' websites and then, people come up with an idea of you. And I've had so many people come over to me like be, oh my gosh, hi, how are you? Like I feel like we're best friends. And it's adorable. And then sometimes people really think that they know you based on what you put out there, forgetting that there's, Instagram is maybe 25 minutes of my day. There's still another 23 and a half hours that we don't know about, and people think that when you have a social media page, right, I think people forget how much good you can do. And I
Right.
firmly believe that if you have a space on social media, you have a responsibility to make it a good space and a space that is light and warm and inviting and comforting and, accepting. And I think people forget that sometimes. So I think that's what I wish people would know is that there's so much more than meets the eye when you just hear someone say, oh, I have an Instagram page. We're not all shallow and high maintenance. A lot of us are trying to do good in a way that we can.
And I think, honestly, I really do think that you are doing so much good. You have an incredible page. What does it feel like, though, for you when people recognize you and come over and say, oh, wow, it's you? What does that feel like?
Oh, it is so weird. It is so weird, and I love it because one of the things is that by keeping my page private and women only, naturally, I have a much smaller amount of followers than a lot of other influencers, even though I don't love that word. So, what that also means is that I get the same people messaging me. And you really I've been doing this for now almost 5 years. You really do develop a relationship with people. So I love it. For me, it shows as confirmation that I'm doing the right thing, that I'm creating a space where people want to be part of, where they feel comfortable coming over to me. I had this at a art that I was at the other week, and we took a picture, we sent it to this woman's family chat because all of her daughters are plus size women, and they follow my page to get style advice and to see what they want to buy. To me, that was so beautiful, and yes, it does feel a little bit weird because it's who am I? This is so funny that it happens to me. But I think it's amazing, and I love that people are comfortable enough to come and say hi. You
That
know,
says a lot about you, by the way. That means that you are giving over this warmth that people just feel drawn to you.
I hope so because social media, we all know, can be a really draining and scary and cold place.
Oh, yeah.
It really can be. But I think I love, love, love when people come over to me. It makes my day. Like, I'll talk about it for the rest of the day, because
That's
it's
great.
just so nice when you have that connection with someone to meet them in person. I think it's amazing. There's nothing like it.
You said so many really incredible things today, but what would be like the last message or the parting message you would want people to hear?
I think that coming from a place of someone who's very into clothing, I think that my defining message would be to take what you can around you, your clothing, your lifestyle, your friends, your family, use it to promote what you really are about and who you really are. And take the time to learn what makes you think and what you value, and then learn how you can showcase that through your clothing, through your dress, through your actions, and it creates a really beautiful cohesive lifestyle where you can have your fashion and your style and your pretty headbands and sparkly things while also not compromising on anything about you as a person, and it really shows.
Yeah, I love that. By the way, I didn't even talk about that, but you dress like not so cookie cutter. You have such a great sense of style, and I wish more people would do that. Like, be individual, show your style like you just said, doesn't only you don't only have to wear black, wear color, wear textures and different, like you're wearing now bows. Like, I love it. It's so great. I wish more people had your confidence and your sense of style.
That's why I always say, like, instead of jumping for the trends, go for what you love. I have pieces, and this is a little bit embarrassing. I have pieces in my closet that I've been wearing since high school. I'm now about to finish a master's program. But when you stick with what you love, you can wear these pieces for years on end and they become familiar to you. And, I think it's important to develop your own personal sense of style that you can put together an outfit and people know it's you and they know that you feel good in it.
Yeah. By the way, you just said that you have something from high school. Before I did this recording with you, I recorded with another woman who also is in the fashion industry in a different way, but she told me that the top that she was wearing is over 15 years old and she's still wearing it. So I think we all have those pieces that we love that we're just wear as long as we can still fit into it, right? I think that's great. So Bracha, thank you so much. I think that this conversation will be so inspiring to so many people. So I really honestly am honored that you decided to come on, and all I can say is thank you.
Thank you for putting this together, giving me the opportunity. I mean, you have such a zechus for whatever people take from this. And I'm really excited for people to hear it. I think it's going to resonate with so many women.
Agreed, agreed. Bracha, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed hanging out with me today. I'd love to hear what stood out for you on today's episode. So email me at heartbeatsandfootprints@gmail.com with all your comments. And if this episode resonated with you, make sure to like, follow, and share it with someone who could use some inspiration. Remember, every heartbeat and every step you take brings you closer to the person you want to be. So until next time, keep moving forward and let's continue to grow together.